मुर्द खुदा में रज़वी हूँ।
Allah Almighty, by His divine grace and His mercy, has given tawfiq and divine guidance to some amongst His servants to be ever willing to sacrifice their lives and all that they have for the sake and the pleasure of Almighty Allah. This guidance and this tawfiq and this grand opportunity is not given to everybody. In every zamana, in every time, in every era, they have been those beloveds of Almighty Allah who did not put themselves first. They were not, in inverted commas, selfish in the terminology of the dunya. They were selfless and they gave priority to the command of Allah and Allah's beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they, by Allah's grace, were chosen to give sacrifices that became so unique that until the day of Qiyamah, people will pay tribute to them and will honor them and will praise them for the qurbani that they have given for the sake of Islam. In every era, in every zamana, you found this happening. But more so in the zamana of the beloved Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. You must remember, when it came to qurbani and sacrifice, and it came to giving everything for the pleasure of Allah and His beloved Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, you will go back in history, and it's a discussion that I discussed in detail on my trip now when I was outside, that when the time came, if you go back into the past, when the time came and Almighty Allah commanded Hazrat Musa ala Nabina alayhi salatu wassalam to enter Baytul Maqdis, Jerusalem, Palestine. Then at that time, when Hazrat Musa alayhi salam said to the Bani Israel that this is the command from Allah Almighty, this is the command from the Creator Almighty Allah, that we should enter into Baytul Maqdis. In other words, enter for what? Enter so that you may conquer it. So when Almighty Allah commanded Hazrat Sayyidina Musa ala Nabiyina alayhi salatu wasalam to enter, and you must know this was after Allah by His divine command had drowned Pharaoh and his army when they tried to pursue Musa alayhi salam and his people. So Almighty Allah commanded Hazrat Musa alayhi salam that enter Baytul Maqdis and take the Bani Israel with you. But what happened at that time? Hazrat Sayyidina Musa alayhi salatu wasalam gathered from amongst the Bani Israel an army of approximately 600,000 people. How many?
600,000.
I want you to keep this in your mind. I discussed this in detail during the Muharram talks that I gave in Amsterdam. I'm reiterating here so we understand something very important. Allah Almighty is commanding Nabi Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, O Musa, enter Baitul Maqdis and take with you the Bani Israel. So Musa alayhi salam chooses how many? Keep this number in mind. 600,000. And the 600,000 soldiers strong were to march with Hazrat Sayyidina Musa ala Nabiyina alayhi salatu wassalam and conquer and enter Baitul Maqdis, Bani Israel. But as they drew near and they came close to Baitul Maqdis, the army of 600,000 got cold feet. The army of 600,000 got cold feet. Because they heard inside Baitul Maqdis there was a nation that lived, that was called the Amalek. They heard that there was a nation that lived inside, that was called the Amalika, and one of their qualities was they had huge bodies. They were massive, very tall, very big bodies, very powerful, very energetic. So when they heard about this, then the Bani Israel, what happened? Halat Kharab. Came near, right near, not far from Baitul Maqdis. Lost hope. They said to Musa alayhi salam that until these people inside, we're not going. How are we going to fight with such people? Such huge people? So by Allah's command, Hazrat Sayyidina Musa ala Nabiyina alayhi salatu wasalam sent Hazrat Sayyidina Yusha bin Nun alayhi salam and Kalib bin Yuqna. Hazrat Kalib bin Yuqna sent both of them. Go inside and you see what the condition is and come back. I'm giving a bit of history. And come back and report to what's happening inside. They went in, Bani Israel was still standing backwards. They came back and they said to the people of Bani Israel, follow the command of Allah. Go with Nabi Musa, don't worry about this Amalek. He said they have big bodies, they have small hearts. What they said? They have big bodies and they have small hearts. They're only big in size, they got no courage. If you go in by the help of Allah, you will be victorious over them. When the Bani Israel heard about this, you know what they did? They said to Musa alayhi salam, Fazhab anta wa rabbuk. You and your Rabb go and fight. You and your Rabb faqatina. You and your Rabb go and fight. Inna hahuna qaidun. You and your Rabb go and fight. We will sit where we are. 600,000. You know why? No jazba of sacrifice in the Bani Israel. Always had this habit. Like it's today even. So-called Zionists. That time was a bit different. But example without comparison. 600,000. Allahu Akbar. Then Nabi is commanding to go. They are still not prepared to do it. They are saying, you and your Creator, you and your Rabb go and fight. We're going to sit here. I want you to take that zamana of Bani Israel, where 600,000 were not prepared to enter against the Amalika in Baitul Maqdis. And I want you to take that zamana where 313 Sahaba of Rasulullah. 313 Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, hungry, stones tied on their stomach. Don't have weapons in their hand. They went to Allah's Nabi when Allah's Nabi called them. And Allah's Nabi gave sticks and twigs in their hand. And they went into battle. They didn't say, you and your Rabb go and fight. They said that, Ya Rasulullah, our souls and our lives are sacrificed. This is Qurbani. This is Qurbani. Do you know why? Because they knew their lives that Allah gave them was the sadaqah of their Nabi. They knew jaan di gayi usi ki thi. Haq to ye hai ki haq ada hi na ho saka. They knew that Allah Almighty gave them this life so that they may make it qurban upon the feet of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for the protection and the preservation of Allah's deen. Look at the vast difference. So it's not everybody that can just go and do this. It is those whom Allah chooses, in whose heart Allah puts that jazba. When Hazrat Sayyiduna Bilal Habashi radiyallahu ta'ala an was made to lie on the burning sands of Arabia. The intensity of boulders that were put on his chest was so hot that it would cause his flesh to cook. Allahu Akbar. Today we can't make sacrifice of 2 rand. We can't make sacrifice of something for the house of Allah. We can't make sacrifice for our own family needs. We can't make sacrifice of our time. Look at what sacrifice they gave. Look at the Qurbani of Hazrat Bilal Habashi on the burning sands of Arabia, being persecuted and tortured and tormented, and still saying, Ahad, Ahad. My Rabb is one, my Rabb is one. What had happened? Bilal Habashi would be beaten. Umayyah and all his people, what they would do to him? They would beat Bilal Habashi. They would put a rope on the 20th of this month, mark the Wisal of Bilal Habashi radiallahu. They would tie ropes on his neck, and they would give the ropes in the hands of children so that they may drag him in the city. They would persecute him and treat him like this. But remember one thing, that they thought that they had put the ropes of the dunya on his throat. But Bilal was then कि जब तक बिका ना था कोई पूछता ना था. तूने या रसूलल्लाह खरीद के मुझे अनमोल बना दिया. Bilal Habshi in the eyes of the world had the ropes of torment and persecution and torture on his throat and around his neck. But in reality, around his neck was the patta of the ishq of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is why on Maidan Mahshar, those who persecuted him, they will go to the dungeons of hell, and Bilal would enter with the beloved Nabi to Jannah. Because of his sacrifice, because of the Qurbani he made. On one hand, you have the sacrifice of the Ashab Badr. On the other hand, you have the sacrifice of the Ashab Uhud. You got Hazrat Sayyiduna Hanzala radiallahu ta'ala. Ghasilul Malaika. He had only married. It was the first night of his marriage. He was with his wife and he heard the call that there is a need to defend the city of Madinatul Munawwara. There is a need to defend the deen of Allah. He left his wife in that state without even having to take ghusl. He did not find time at that time. He said the hukum of Allah's Nabi has come. He left and he went. And when the Sahaba Ikram, after the battle of Uhud, were checking all those that were made shaheed, you know what happened in the battle of Uhud. The Sahaba Ikram were mutilated. They were mutilated. Their ears were removed. Their nose were removed. Their eyes were removed. There was not a single Sahabi that had been made shaheed that had not been mutilated. But when the Sahaba Ikram went out and they looked for the bodies of the other Sahaba Ikram who had been made shaheed, they saw something different. They came and they said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we are seeing that every companion has some form of mutilation, but Hanzala's face is clear. Ya Rasulullah, there's no sign of mutilation on Hamza's face. Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, there are drops of water that are falling from the body of Hanzala. Hanzala has kafan, Ya Rasulullah, which does not happen to a shaheed. Rasul Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, I was watching as the Malaika were taking Hanzala into the sky and they were giving him in the ghusl in the heaven and bringing him back. Why was this? Because he made qurban. He gave such a sacrifice. Shaheed doesn't need ghusl. But because he left his wife and went in that state, to remove him from that state, the Malaika took him into the heavens and they gave him ghusl and they brought him back. Look at this maqam and the fazilat of shahadat. And then you look at the shahadat of Imam Hussain, Shaheed Karbala, and the Ahlul Bayt, and the companions of the Ahlul Bayt that gave their lives. Why did they give their lives? I wrote something yesterday and shared. One of the things that I said was when Hussain radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when Sayyidina Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when he left Madinatul Munawwara, when Hussain radiallahu anhu journeyed from Madinatul Munawwara to Karbala Mu'alla. I want you to keep this in your mind. And I'm going to end with this. When Imam Hussain radiallahu anhu journeyed during this difficult time that he faced, when he journeyed from Madinatul Munawwara to Karbala Mu'alla, it was a journey from Jannat to Jannat.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah.
It was a journey from Jannat to Jannat. He journeyed from Medina, which is Jannat on this dunya. And that portion where the beloved Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam is resting, according to Sayyidina Imam Qadi Iyad radiallahu anhu, and Imam Asqalani and all the great Aimma is greater than the Arsh of Almighty Allah. That exact peace. So he journeyed from Jannat and he journeyed towards Jannat. Why? Because he journeyed towards Shahadat. He journeyed towards martyrdom, and the reward of martyrdom is Jannat al-Firdaus. So he journeyed from Jannat to Jannat. He knew what he was getting into. He knew that he was nurtured for this ever since a child, because this is that Hussein, that his beloved grandfather sallallahu alaihi wasallam on the plains of Badr raised his hand, and Almighty Allah sent the Malaika to destroy the kuffar. So if Hussein wanted to pick his hand and say, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, grant me your aid, then at that time the mothers of Almighty Allah would have come such that not one would have been able to stand against Imam Hussein. But the intention and the maqsad and the objective was not just fighting, it was giving a qurbani. It was giving a sacrifice. Imam Hussein gave his own life. He gave the life of Hazrat Ali Asghar in his hand. Hazrat Ali Asghar was still a child in his hand. But even the enemies of Islam and the Yazidis were not prepared to give a single drop of water. Do you know why? They feared that if we put a drop of water in the mouth of this child, yet Karbala mein aa jayega ladne ke liye. Even he will have that himmah. That was their fear in their heart. They knew this was not any ordinary family. This was the family of Muhammadur Rasulullah. But they gave a qurbani. What sacrifice are we giving? We can't sacrifice our time. Illa mashallah for salah. To do good. What are we looking for today? Everybody wants a platform in life. Anything we do is for name and fame. Illa mashallah. It's for show. It's for dunya. It's so people say, oh, this person is doing this very big thing. Imam Hussein didn't do it for that. Bilal Habshi didn't do it for that. Hazrat Sumayya didn't do that for that. Hazrat Ammar ibn Yasar didn't do it for that. Hazrat Yasir didn't do it for that. They did it for the pleasure of Allah. They did it for the pleasure of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you must know, whatever you do for dunya and for name and fame, it will stay here, you will go, it will be forgotten. But what you did for the pleasure of Allah and Allah's beloved Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even after you are gone, more than 1300 years are finished, almost 1400 years. But still today we are saying, Qatl Hussain asl mein marge Yazid hai. Islam zinda hota hai har Karbala ke baad. Wa ma alayna al-balagh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq khair. Those who are ill, Allah shifa. Those who are passed on Ahl Sunnah, Allah exalt them in Jannah Nafis. For those, especially Hafiz Muhammad Usman, somebody that I had known since he was a very little boy, and he was very ill with cancer for some while, and while I was not here, he had passed away. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exalt him in Jannat al-Firdaus. Allah give his family sabr jameel. All those others that are going through any calamity and difficulty, may Allah remove them. Special dua for the Sunni Muslims of Palestine and wherever else the Muslims are going through difficulties. May Allah remove them from this difficulty and from this hardship. And before I forget, tonight inshallah al-Azim at 6 p.m. At Imam Mustafa Raza Research Center is the Urs of Saraqa Quds of Sarkari Mufti Azam Hind radiallahu anhu, which was officially on the 14th of Muharram, eve of the 14th, but since I have not been here and I'm back now, so the Urs we will have tonight, including Noori Mahfil. So 6 p.m. And then we will do Isha Salah and then continue with the program. Thereafter Niyaz will be served. Please make an effort to come. Sarkari Ghawsul Waqt Huzur Mufti Azam Hind radiallahu anhu is the great house of his zamana, the personality who sacrificed his entire life for the sake of the protection of the deen of the Muslims. So if we do not make attempts, sometimes we're lazy, we don't want to go here. If there's good things happening and if it is within the limits of the Sharia, what is the problem? Why can't we go? What is the difficulty? I'm not saying to you this because I want you to come and fill the center. No, there's no need. Even if there's one, it will be still doing. We'll still do the same thing. But the thing is, we need to know which direction our hearts are attracted. Our hearts are attracted more to places of controversy. Where there's controversy, even if you see on social media, if somebody is posting one Hadith Sharif, 10 people will look at it, and you post a controversy, 10,000 people will look at it. Why? Because our hearts have become like this. It's very destructive. So Allah give us tawfiq khair, Allah give us tawfiq to understand. May Allah keep us